Alright, so here's a little update here. It's, of course, nighttime now, as you can see. But I went ahead and got this thing topped off the antifreeze, got all that stuff done. And got our correct breather, we got that on. That's taken care of too. And went ahead and we got this thing up to operating temperature. Runs really good. And we got it up to... We went up to about 190, 195. It's got a 195 thermostat in it, and that's what's supposed to be in there anyway, is a 195. Pretty much 195 is pretty much standard for just about anything. But I done put it away. But I would show y'all. But anyway, I was looking for my temperature gauge, and I mean, not my temperature gauge. Look for my temperature gun there. I was going to show you. But we had 195 down here, had about 183 down here at this lower radiator hose. Pretty good all there. And we got this thing up completely to operating temperature. I'm going to go through and double check all our fluids again, but everything's pretty much pretty good. But when I checked it last, we got plenty of coolant in it. We got plenty of oil in it. And I'd say we're pretty good to go. We got this thing starting and charging really good. We got our one-wire alternator on there that's been installed now. There's a one-wire alternator. Just running hot to the back there. And I ground it up there. That's temporary. That's not going to stay like that. There's actually a ground right here where this bolt is. And I'll probably move that on over. We'll move it from here back to there. And might have to tighten the belt up just a little bit. This thing squealed a little bit. But this thing, I tell you what, this thing runs a whole lot better. I mean, a lot better. It still sounds, rough on video because it's got some exhaust leaks. The mufflers are shot on this thing. They're junk pretty much. And the whole inside of them is rattling and falling apart and everything else. That's why it sounds like it. And we got a couple exhaust leaks. I'm not sure if they're behind the muffler or in front of them or if it's both, but basically where the muffler's installed onto the exhaust there, it's leaking like crazy. So that's got to be addressed. I'm going to take a cut-off wheel. We're cutting the mufflers off. I'm sick of listening to a bunch of rattling and everything else. They're coming off. Probably going to get a set of glass packs and throw on there because I'm tired of having junk mufflers. They're the Speedway mufflers. One of them is a Flowmaster, and that one's okay. But the other side is a Speedway muffler, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous. I'm just tired of it rattling, but I'm going to cut them off. We're going to throw glass packs on here and leave it at that, because that way I like the glass packs because it ain't nothing that can fall apart inside. And, you know, I ain't, say nothing bad about Flowmaster. I've had pretty good luck in the past with them, but them Speedway mufflers, don't ever buy them. Them things are nothing but junk. Just pure junk. But anyway, so that's why this thing sounds a little rough on video there. But we got, looks like just two little minor leaks here. I'm not too awful concerned about it. But we got one leak. It's leaking around the threads right there. Just a little bit. So I got to correct that. Might have to pull it back off, put a little bit more on there. And we got one down here at this plug. And I've tried to get that plug out. I cannot get it out. So I just kind of left it alone. And it might be dried up now. It might just be, that actually might not be leaking. It might just be running down. Because I know this one's leaking. It might just be running on down. And it's making this plug down here look like it's leaking. But I'm going to double check it for sure. Make sure it's just that one leak up here and not both of them. But anyway, that's what we got going on there. And then we got a couple of the intake bolts down here are leaking. Got a little bit of an oil leak. So the one back in here is seeping oil and it's running down and it's collecting on the back of the intake. Not bad. It's just seeping just a little bit. So I'm going to go through and double check all the torque on the intake bolts here. But anyway, we got our new distributor installed. All that's been done. I think I mentioned that already. And we got our new vacuum line for our transmission. That's installed. And not really too happy about that. Really didn't want to install a rubber vacuum line like that. We run that straight to the modulator. And we got rid of that steel tube. Somebody bent that up at one time or another, and you know, it's rigged it up to where it would work, but I got rid of all that. And I'm all bent up a new one and get that corrected. This is just temporary. But anyway, I did take this thing up down the road, and our temperature's good. Our starting and charging is so much better. This thing starts good now, and ain't all grinding and everything else. So I got that straightened out, and we got about 14.5 volts now, and the headlights are so much brighter and everything else, and it's a whole lot better. But one thing I'm still concerned about this 305 is we got oil pressure. No question about that. This thing got good oil pressure, but the oil flow I'm a little bit concerned about. But so I might end up throwing an oil pump on this thing too, just to help it. But I mean, it might not even make it much of a difference, honestly, because if the main bearings and the rod bearings and the cam bearings and all that are worn out, I mean, it ain't really going to fix that. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it. But so either way, the front seal and the rear seal on the oil pan are leaking. Not bad, but they're seeping a little bit. So I'll go underneath and see if we can tighten the bolts up just a little bit. Won't go too crazy on it. See if that'll get rid of it. But honestly, the oil pan's going to have to come off either way because it's leaking. Our rear main is dry. So the rear main seal is pretty good. So don't see nothing wrong there. But still, I'm just not completely satisfied with that. I took it up down the road, you know, and I have not got on it at all. I mean, I've been babying this thing because I want to give it time to. I mean, it's not like you're putting a new cam or lifters or anything in it. You know, you really don't have to break it in, but it's got all new valve springs on it, and you know, I'm really just babying it right now because I'm trying to get all the work all the bugs out of it for now and get it straightened out as good as we can. But I'm just not 100% satisfied with it because it's just, I mean, it runs a whole lot better, but it's still, I think I really wish I would have put a cam and a set of lifters in it because it's still not quite where I want it. But I mean, it runs good, but the torque wise is just a turd. I mean, it might not be, it's really not a whole lot you can do about it. It's 305, but I'm so used to having a, you know, a 5.9 in there. But and even that thing, I mean, it's got some miles on it, but it's got more power than this. But I did get it moved, so we got it sitting beside our Biscayne now. So there's our Biscayne, there's my truck. So it is moved. We finally got it moved. It's been sitting since Christmas time pretty much. But so anyway, I'm going to go over this thing. I'm going to double check our torque on our intake bolts there. Make sure all that's good. And we don't have a passing gear right now. I got to bolt that up. We got some issues with that because when I had that bolted up, it's hitting our accelerator rod right there. And I tried to move that thing over a little bit and just take our passing gear bracket and move it over a little bit so I get more clearance. So I might have to swap that out and get a different bracket for it. But I might end up just doing away with that passing gear altogether, that cable, and just getting a whole different style cable and just getting a regular old cable and just get rid of all this mess down in here. Because this one is adjustable, but just get one with just that cable. It doesn't have this piece, and see if we can get a little different bracket. So I got to figure that out yet. I am going to hook it back up. It's just, for now, you know, I just left it off. And this is a Turbo 350. That's not going to burn it up. It does not hurt. One thing at all, having it unhooked like that, you just don't have passing gear, that's all. It ain't going to hurt nothing. It's not a TV cable. Now, the Soda Hunter R4s, you cannot leave that off like that. But this is a Turbo 350, and it's not going to hurt it. I mean, it ain't going to hurt it one bit. like I said, it won't drop from third to second, and it won't drop from second to first. Now you can manually shift it, and it'll do it just fine. But it won't automatically drop down. But so I got to take care of that, get that hook back up, and trying to get this thing to idle down just a little bit. It's still idling just a little high, so I'm gonna have to adjust the timing just a little bit. And I ain't even fine-tuned this thing at all. I really haven't. I've just, you know, took and retarded the timing, just got to where I can start it. And I ain't even fine-tuned it, so I got to do all that yet. And that carburetor, I got to pull all that back off and clean it, and I'm gonna take and you know, make sure all it's good and all that good stuff. But it still feels like it's got a vacuum leak. I think the intake gaskets, not the intake gaskets, sorry there, but the carburetor gaskets, I mean, I think they're leaking a little bit. I did not replace them at all, so I got to do all that. Man, them gaskets are ridiculous. They're almost $10 a gasket, and I got 2 of them. I got one under the spacer, and then I got one between the carburetor and that spacer on top. And that's a real spacer, too. That's a one-piece aluminum spacer. It does not have that junk plastic insert in it. That is a true one. And they are very hard to find, but you can find them. But, yeah, them gaskets are awful. It's ridiculous what they cost. But this thing, the idle is definitely a lot more noticeable. So there's a forum I read on that when you block off that exhaust crossover in the middle there, either by running this style intake or using the gaskets to block it off, they were saying it has more of a lope. That is definitely 100% correct. Now, it's not some lope like you got a cam in it, but it's got a little slight lope to it. And that sounds a whole lot better. I mean, it runs a whole lot better. It's just the torque is not there, though. But, I mean, the whole motor really needs to be overhauled to do it right. I mean, but it's a 305. I don't have the money to take it to a machine shop. It's not worth taking it to a machine shop. And, I mean, I could have, you know, at least toned the cylinders and all that and rerung it, but I just did the top end. So, for what I'm doing, it's not going to be in service long. And I was wanting to run the 283 valve covers on it and all that good stuff and throw it over in this Biscayne here, but I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're just going to run it to get this truck back on the road and, you know, put it back in service just very temporarily till we get our 454. And I think we're just going to pull it out, and I don't think we're going to put it in nothing at all. I think we're just going to put it away and just store it away, and then we'll just keep it as a spare. And maybe later on I'll do the block and all that and just tone it out. But I'll probably this will just become a spare motor. But so all the videos and all that, I was talking about making this thing a clone 283 and all that. We're not going to do that to this one. I just don't think it's worth it, honestly. I think the main bearings and the rod bearings, I think they're just, I mean, they're not completely wore out, but I think they're wore out enough to where the oil pressure, it's still got decent oil pressure, but it's definitely, it's low. You know, it's probably about 30, 40 pounds, which is, you know, that's not horrible, but it's probably more like 40 pounds maybe. I mean, that's nothing to really worry about, but it tells you that the clearancers, I mean, it's just getting wore out. I mean, this motor, this is the second time it's been freshened up like this. So, I mean, it's been rerun before. And it is standard bore. So, I'm sure the crank and all that's still standard too. So, anyway. So, I just want to show y'all what I got here. And I did take it up down the road. And like I said, I didn't get down on it or nothing yet. I just really babying it right now. I'm going to change the oil in it, do that again. And I still need to get a set of plugs for it. And I still got 3 plug wires on it that are, you know, still old. So we might have something going on there. But it's definitely firing on all cylinders, though. So, but yeah, that video I made of this thing running for the first time and all that, I made that earlier today. And it sounded like crap when I went back and watched the video, but the motor sounds fine in person. You really need to hear it in person. It sounds a whole lot better. It's really smooth. But the exhaust leaks it's nothing up here. It's just the mufflers. We got a couple pinholes that are on the pipe, between the pipe and the muffler, that the exhaust is leaking. And plus the mufflers on this thing are just shot. But we'll be cutting them off. And if I got to straight pipe it until I get glass packs, that's what I will do. But I'm not listening to a bunch of rattling. It's like somebody took a coffee can and took a bunch of bolts and threw in it, and just shaking it like crazy. Or a paint mixer, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going on and on and on and on about it, but definitely happy with it. So far, I'm happy it's running better, but I'm not 100% satisfied, if that makes sense. But anyway, it looks good. Top end looks decent on it. And I paint that breather orange. But not like it. That looks good. But that's what we got. And I run this thing good enough to where all the paint's done baked on it now, so we're good there. Anyway, what we got?